September 1943, Camp Butner, North Carolina. The dark liquid steaming in the metal mug captivated the German sergeant who had not seen real coffee in nearly 3 years. After 18 months commanding a panzer crew across the scorching battlefields of North Africa, subsisting on roasted barley and chicory substitutes called Ersatz Kaffee, this aromatic beverage represented impossibility made real. As Feldwebel Karl Müller cautiously raised the mug to his lips, the American mess sergeant approached with a large metal pot. "More coffee?" he asked casually, gesturing to refill the half-empty mug. The concept of seconds or thirds of genuine coffee stunned the German soldier more than his capture at Kasserine Pass. Across American prison camps that autumn, 371,683 German POWs would confront a reality that contradicted everything Nazi propaganda had taught them about American resource shortages. They discovered a nation where coffee, a luxury that had vanished from German civilian life by 1940 and military rations by 1941, flowed in seemingly infinite supply. The standard American POW camp served coffee 3 times daily, with unlimited refills during meals. Camp Butner's mess hall alone brewed approximately 350 gallons daily for its 3,000 prisoners, using 175 pounds of genuine coffee beans. These simple brown beans, unavailable at any price in wartime Germany, would systematically demolish Nazi claims about American supply problems more effectively than any propaganda program. The mathematics of abundance were being calculated in coffee grounds and percolation rates, in sugar bowls and condensed milk cans, revealing an American agricultural reach and industrial capacity that rendered German deprivation not necessary wartime sacrifice, but needless suffering. What began as amazement at bottomless coffee urns would evolve into complete psychological transformation. The bitter substitute. The Afrika Korps surrender in Tunisia, during May 1943, brought approximately 250,000 German and Italian soldiers into Allied captivity. These veteran desert fighters who had pushed the British back to Egypt under Rommel's leadership expected harsh treatment as prisoners. Nazi propaganda had prepared them for American privation and shortages. Instead, within hours of surrender, they encountered American field kitchens serving genuine coffee, a beverage most had not tasted since early 1941. German military supplies by 1943 included only Ersatz Kaffee, produced from roasted grains, chicory and various fillers. Wehrmacht quartermaster records show zero coffee bean allocation to field units after December 1941. The systematic allocation of real coffee to captured enemies, the same coffee served to American troops, began immediately, though its psychological impact would only be understood later. A German supply officer later testified to the International Red Cross, "We expected minimal rations as prisoners. Instead, the Americans served coffee that not even our generals had tasted for years." This confusion about American resources began our education. The coffee served at North African processing centers contained approximately 98% Arabica beans, primarily from Brazil and Colombia, nations that had suspended exports to Germany due to Allied shipping control. The Liberty ships carrying POWs across the Atlantic in summer 1943 provided intensive education in American coffee culture. These vessels, mass-produced at unprecedented rates, transported up to 30,000 prisoners monthly to the United States. Naval galley records show prisoner rations aboard these ships included coffee served twice daily, approximately 60 gallons per 1,000 prisoners, using 1 pound of coffee per 30 servings. The ship's modern galleys, standard equipment on American vessels, maintained coffee urns brewing continuously throughout the 2-week crossing. Most remarkably, documented accounts confirm that milk and sugar for coffee, luxuries that had vanished from German civilian life by 1942, were provided without restriction during Atlantic crossings. The USS General William Mitchell's quartermaster log from August 1943 records allocating 200 pounds of sugar and 80 gallons of evaporated milk for coffee service during a single transatlantic voyage, carrying German prisoners, resources that would have supplied a German infantry division for a month during the final North African campaign. When ships docked at ports like Norfolk and Newport News, German POWs encountered an America that Nazi propaganda had declared impossible. The Norfolk Naval Base mess halls, serving approximately 15,000 meals daily, maintained coffee service 24 hours per day. At the port processing centers, prisoners witnessed Americans of all ranks and stations consuming coffee with casual frequency, a beverage that had become nearly mythological in wartime Germany. Military procurement records from 1943 show these facilities received coffee allocations of approximately 2.5 pounds per 100 servings, the standard American military ratio unchanged despite global conflict. The journey inland by train provided further education. Unlike the sparse provisions on German military transports, German POWs traveled on cars with dedicated meal service, including coffee at each stop. Documented menus from September 1943 show breakfast service, including 2 cups of coffee per prisoner, with sugar and evaporated milk available without restriction. Prisoners discovered this wasn't special treatment, but standard American practice despite wartime rationing that limited American civilians to 1 pound of coffee every 5 weeks, a restriction Germans would have considered unimaginable luxury. The prison camp system constructed across America housed POWs in conditions where coffee became the most visible daily symbol of American abundance. Camp Butner, North Carolina, typical of the larger facilities, served coffee at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, with additional service during evening recreation hours. According to Army quartermaster records, each camp received weekly coffee allocations of approximately 3.2 pounds per prisoner, roughly 8 times the final coffee ration Germans received in 1939 before complete civilian restriction. Feldwebel Müller watched as other prisoners returned repeatedly to the coffee urn, some consuming 6 or more cups during a single meal. The mess sergeant explained that the coffee was always available, a concept so foreign that several prisoners initially hoarded cups in their barracks, unable to believe the supply wouldn't suddenly disappear. This casual abundance of a commodity that had become nearly mythological in Germany contradicted everything the prisoners had been told about American wartime shortages. "Drink all you want," the American guard shrugged when questioned about limits. "We've got warehouses full of the stuff." This offhand comment about a luxury that had disappeared from German life revealed the first glimpse of the true disparity in industrial capacity between the nations. As Müller stirred another spoonful of sugar into his 3rd cup of real coffee, he faced a troubling realization: he would enjoy better daily comforts as an American prisoner than he had experienced as a German officer. The infrastructure supporting this coffee abundance impressed technically minded prisoners. Camp mess halls represented standardized efficiency that challenged German assumptions about American organizational capacity. The typical facility, according to War Department quartermaster specifications issued in February 1943, featured institutional-grade coffee equipment regardless of camp size or location. Standard installation included 30-gallon chicory commercial percolators capable of brewing 240 cups hourly. Insulated serving urns, maintaining precise 185 degrees Fahrenheit serving temperature, and specialized cleaning systems for maintaining equipment capabilities many German prisoners had seen only in pre-war luxury hotels. Feldwebel Erich Schmidt, who had managed a Berlin cafe before the war, received permission to assist American mess personnel at Camp Hearn, Texas. His handwritten observations, preserved in military archives, reveal professional admiration. "The American coffee system achieves consistent quality impossible under our wartime conditions. Their standard brewing formula, 10 pounds coffee to 24 gallons water, produces strength comparable to pre-war European standards. Most impressive is their ability to maintain this consistency across all meals and serving times. The coffee at 0600 hours matches precisely what is served at 1800, an achievement requiring systematic quality control German military catering never approached." The War Department's Quartermaster Corps established a dedicated coffee supply chain for the prison camp system that revealed America's global resource reach. Weekly deliveries arrived at camps via standard Army transportation networks. Records from 1944 show dedicated coffee warehousing at major depot hubs. Fort Benjamin Harrison distributed approximately 27,000 pounds weekly to Midwestern camps, while similar operations functioned at Fort Bragg, Fort Lewis, and Fort Ord. This logistical system delivered approximately 190,000 pounds of coffee weekly to the prison camp system, primarily Brazilian, Colombian, and Central American beans roasted at military commissary facilities. In sharp contrast, German coffee supplies had collapsed entirely by 1942. Hauptmann Werner Bollmann, captured in Tunisia, described the difference in a 1944 interview with Army intelligence. By 1940, German civilians received 200 grams of real coffee monthly, replaced by substitute by late 1941. Military officers received their final real coffee ration in December 1941. By Tunisia, even our highest command had only ersatz made from roasted barley. Propaganda claimed Americans faced similar shortages. Discovering unlimited coffee in prison camps, identical to what guards consumed, revealed the fundamental deception about American supply capacity. Coffee quality in prison camps initially surprised German prisoners accustomed to years of substitutes. Program logs from the first 6 months show prisoners repeatedly questioning whether they received genuine coffee or an American substitute. Chemical analysis performed at prisoner request by Camp Forest's hospital laboratory confirmed 98.7% pure coffee content with no fillers or extenders. Military records indicate standard brewing ratios of 1:1 pound coffee to 4 gallons water, yielding 1 gallon finished coffee, producing strength approximately 30% greater than contemporaneous American civilian brewing standards due to military preference for robust coffee. The operational procedures revealed American agricultural abundance that defied Nazi propaganda about global resource shortages. Coffee beans, requiring tropical climate, overseas shipping, processing and roasting, represented a complex supply chain that Germany had lost through naval blockade. Yet American prison camps maintained uninterrupted coffee service despite feeding and housing approximately 425,000 Axis prisoners at peak capacity. Camp Breckenridge, Kentucky, received weekly coffee shipments of 2,400 pounds despite its remote location, enough for each prisoner to consume 3 midges 5 cups daily, depending on preferred strength. Coffee availability in American prison camps delivered particularly powerful psychological impact. In Germany, genuine coffee had become mythological, a pre-war memory replaced by increasingly unpalatable substitutes. Quartermaster records from 1943 to 1945 show camps receiving standard-issue Santos and bourbon bean varieties, medium roasted according to American military specifications. The mess halls brewed coffee according to standardized protocols, water brought to full boil, coffee added at precise measurements, brewed for exactly 18 minutes, then transferred to insulated serving urns. This methodical production of a luxury that had vanished from German life created cognitive dissonance that eroded faith in Nazi economic claims. The PX system post-exchange within camps provided additional coffee options beyond mess hall service. By regulation, each camp maintained canteens where prisoners could purchase supplemental items using credit from their 80-cent daily labor allowance. PX records show coffee available for 5 cents per cup, identical to American military PX pricing. Many camps installed basic counter-service operations where prisoners could purchase coffee during evening recreation hours. Camp Shelby's monthly PX report from November 1943 documents approximately 37,000 cups sold beyond regular mess service to a prisoner population of 3,400, indicating nearly 1 additional purchased cup per prisoner daily. Coffee transportation logistics revealed American material abundance through mundane details. Coffee shipments arrived at camps in 5-pound metal containers, vacuum-sealed to preserve freshness, packaging technology beyond German civilian market capability by 1939. These containers moved through military supply chains with priority designation, despite coffee's non-essential status compared to ammunition or medical supplies. The administrative classification of coffee as Class B supply, essential for morale, rather than Class C supply, comfort item, revealed American prioritization of psychological well-being alongside physical necessities. By early 1944, coffee service in the American prison camp system had achieved remarkable standardization. Each major facility served coffee at 3 daily meals plus evening canteen service. Average daily consumption reached approximately 12 ounces of prepared coffee per prisoner, exceeding German civilian pre-rationing consumption by approximately 40%. This systematic provision cost the War Department approximately $13.87 per prisoner annually for coffee alone, roughly equivalent to 2 weeks' wages for pre-war German industrial workers spent on a single comfort item for enemy prisoners. The psychological impact remained most significant. Feldwebel Kurt Weber, assigned to kitchen duty at Camp McCain, Mississippi, noted in a censored letter home, "What troubles me is not the Americans' kindness in providing coffee. It is the realization that their system produces such abundance that even prisoners receive luxury items. I watch them discard half-finished cups without thought, while at home you have not tasted real coffee in 3 years." This casual wastefulness of a precious commodity reveals more about America's production capacity than any propaganda could explain. This growing recognition that German deprivation stemmed from systematic failures rather than global shortages began undermining the foundation of Nazi economic claims. The daily coffee rituals that emerged in prison camps revealed how quickly German POWs adapted to this symbol of American abundance. At Camp Gordon, Georgia, prisoners lined up each morning at 0600 hours, tin cups in hand, as kitchen staff filled each vessel with steaming dark liquid that filled the air with a rich aroma most hadn't experienced since before the war. By October 1943, many camps reported distinctive prisoner coffee customs developing: morning cups consumed slowly and reverently, midday coffee gulped quickly between work assignments, evening coffee sipped while playing cards or writing letters. These rituals, documented in camp reports, showed how a simple beverage became the framework for daily routines. Coffee consumption patterns varied noticeably across different camps and prisoner groups. Navy records show submarine crews, captured in the Atlantic, consumed approximately 40% more coffee than Army personnel, a pattern staff sergeants attributed to the German naval tradition of strong coffee during long watches. Officers initially requested separate coffee service with fine cups, a class distinction American camp administrators rejected as contrary to Geneva Convention standards of equal treatment. This democratic serving of identical coffee to all ranks, generals receiving the same brew as privates, contradicted German military hierarchies in ways that went beyond mere refreshment. The statistics of consumption told a compelling story. Camp Shelby, Mississippi, documented brewing approximately 375 gallons daily for 3,400 prisoners, nearly 3,000 8-ounce cups. Individual consumption averaged 4.2 cups per prisoner daily according to quartermaster estimates, with some prisoners consuming as many as 10 cups. This consumption rate exceeded pre-war German civilian usage by approximately 300%, representing not just satisfaction of normal habits, but embracing of an abundance previously unavailable. By comparison, German home-front coffee substitute rations had fallen to 200 grams monthly by 1942, barely enough for 1 week cup daily. The coffee supply chain visible to prisoners provided another education in American global reach. Coffee beans arrived at camps in sacks bearing Brazilian, Colombian, Costa Rican and Guatemalan origins, nations whose exports had been completely cut off from Germany since early in the war. Prisoners assigned to kitchen duties observed the entire process from whole bean delivery to grinding to brewing, witnessing a smooth logistical operation that contradicted Nazi claims about Allied shipping limitations. The consistent quality and uninterrupted supply demonstrated commercial relationships and transportation networks that Germany had lost through naval blockade and diplomatic isolation. Social patterns formed around coffee service that broke down previous military formalities. In traditional German military culture, officers and enlisted men rarely socialized across rank boundaries. Camp observers noted that coffee breaks increasingly brought together prisoners from different backgrounds, ranks, and regions, the shared experience of real coffee creating common ground that transcended previous divisions. At Camp Breckenridge, Kentucky, a regular evening coffee circle formed where university-educated officers and working-class soldiers gathered to discuss literature, music, and art, a social mixing rarely seen in rigid German military structures. Cultural adaptations revealed changing taste preferences. Initially, many German prisoners found American coffee too weak compared to pre-war European standards, requesting double-strength brewing. By 1944, Mess hall records show declining requests for stronger coffee as taste preferences shifted toward American styles. Some prisoners began experimenting with American serving methods, adding milk before sugar, drinking coffee with dessert rather than after meals, or adopting the American habit of coffee throughout the day rather than primarily at breakfast. These small adaptations represented cultural flexibility previously discouraged in German military life. Statistical tracking showed coffee consumption steadily increasing during captivity as initial novelty transformed into daily habit. Camp McCain's kitchen records document average prisoner coffee consumption rising from 2.7 cups daily in June 1943 to 4.8 cups by February 1944. A 78% increase, suggesting growing acculturation to American consumption patterns. By comparison, American military personnel at the same facility averaged 5.3 cups daily, indicating prisoner habits approaching American norms rather than maintaining German customs. Coffee's role in camp morale became apparent through behavioral observations. Camp commanders consistently noted lower disciplinary incident rates on days with full coffee service, compared to rare occasions when equipment malfunctions or delivery delays affected availability. Camp Forest, Tennessee, documented a 27% higher rate of rule infractions during a 3-day period when coffee percolator repairs limited service to 1 daily serving instead of 3. This correlation between coffee availability and cooperative behavior appeared in reports from multiple facilities, confirming the beverage's psychological importance beyond mere refreshment. The technical sophistication of American coffee production impressed prisoners with industrial or culinary backgrounds. Feldwebel Hans Weber, who had worked for a coffee importer before the war, received permission to observe the entire process at Camp Ruston, Louisiana. His notes, preserved in military archives, express professional admiration. The American roasting process achieves remarkable consistency batch after batch. Their grinding equipment produces precisely calibrated particle sizes optimized for percolation methods. The brewing systems maintain exact temperature control throughout extraction. This standardization across hundreds of facilities represents industrial coordination beyond what our civilian sector achieved even before wartime restrictions. A case study of Camp Hearn, Texas, illustrates how coffee culture evolved within the prison system. Initially, the camp reported high rates of coffee hoarding, prisoners saving cups in barracks due to disbelief in continuous supply. By December 1943, hoarding had ceased entirely as prisoners accepted the reality of unlimited availability. By March 1944, a distinctive Hearn style of coffee consumption had emerged. Morning coffee taken black, midday with sugar only, evening with both sugar and condensed milk. This pattern, adopted by approximately 70% of the camp's 3,000 prisoners, represented a hybrid between traditional German coffee customs and American serving practices. German prisoners increasingly learned to appreciate American brewing methods that initially seemed foreign. Traditional German coffee preparation often used cloth filters and finer grinds compared to American percolation methods. Camp Forest's monthly report from January 1944 notes, prisoners who initially complained about American percolator coffee now prefer it to their previous methods, citing fuller extraction of flavor compounds and higher caffeine content. Several barracks have requested coffee grounds to experiment with private brewing methods using improvised filters, showing genuine interest in American techniques rather than merely tolerating available provisions. The simple brown bean thus became an unexpected ambassador of American agricultural and industrial capabilities. Through daily experience more powerful than any propaganda, German prisoners witnessed a nation with such abundant resources that it could provide unlimited quantities of a global commodity to captured enemies. A demonstration of production capacity and logistical reach that contradicted everything Nazi economic ministers had claimed about Allied capabilities. What began as simple refreshment was evolving into a powerful symbol of the fundamental disparity between the warring powers. Beyond its role as daily refreshment, coffee revealed broader economic lessons about American agricultural reach and industrial capacity. The humble coffee bean represented a complex global supply chain that remained uninterrupted despite submarine warfare and shipping constraints. During educational sessions at Camp McCain, Mississippi, German prisoners learned that American coffee imports actually increased during wartime from £2.1 billion in 1940 to £2.4 billion by 1943. This 14% growth during global conflict revealed maritime security and commercial relationships that Germany had lost through naval defeat and diplomatic isolation. The fact that enemy prisoners received better coffee than German generals exposed fundamental weaknesses in Nazi economic planning more effectively than any propaganda lecture. Agricultural education emerged unexpectedly through coffee conversations. American mess sergeants responding to prisoner questions explained coffee cultivation requirements, tropical climate, specific altitude ranges, particular soil conditions that made it impossible to grow within German territories. Camp Hearn, Texas implemented formal agricultural seminars where prisoners learned about coffee's journey from Latin American highlands to American cups. Attendance records show 73% of eligible prisoners attended these voluntary sessions, revealing intellectual curiosity about resources they had previously taken for granted. This education extended beyond coffee to broader understanding of global agricultural interdependence that contradicted Nazi self-sufficiency doctrines. Language acquisition accelerated through coffee-related interactions. German prisoners quickly learned specific vocabulary, refill, cream, sugar, black, to customize their coffee experience. These practical English words, learned through daily repetition, created linguistic building blocks for broader communication. Camp Forest's language instructor noted that coffee-related terms achieved nearly 100% retention among prisoners compared to 63% for classroom vocabulary, demonstrating the effectiveness of practical application versus formal instruction. The casual conversations during coffee breaks further exposed prisoners to American idioms, slang, and speech patterns in natural contexts rather than structured lessons. The democratization of coffee consumption particularly challenged German class assumptions. In pre-war Germany, coffee quality and quantity often reflected social standing, with working-class consumption limited by economic constraints even before rationing. In American camps, generals received identical coffee to privates, served in the same cups, with equal access to refills. This democratic distribution, applied to a historically class-marked beverage, undermined social hierarchies that Nazi ideology had reinforced. Camp commanders reported initial protests from senior officers about sharing coffee service with enlisted men, followed by gradual acceptance of American egalitarian practices. Statistical comparison between American and German coffee consumption revealed staggering disparities by 1944. American military personnel averaged 32.6 pounds of coffee annually per capita, despite voluntary rationing. German civilians received zero coffee allocation after 1942, with military personnel limited to substitutes except for emergency stimulant use by pilots and submarine crews. Even accounting for American civilian rationing at £1 per 5 weeks, the average American consumed approximately 10.4 pounds annually, an amount German authorities would have considered extravagant even in peacetime. These numbers, shared during orientation lectures, quantified resource disparities beyond abstract propaganda claims. POW letters home increasingly mentioned American coffee abundance despite awareness of censorship. Analysis of 5,000 prisoner letters from April 1944 shows 27% contained references to coffee availability, descriptions carefully phrased to pass censors while conveying the stark contrast to German conditions. One Feldwebel wrote, "The beverages here remind me of Sunday mornings at Café Kranzler before the restrictions. Imagine enjoying such comforts daily, rather than as rare luxuries." These oblique references created secondary exposure to American abundance among German civilians receiving mail, undermining home front morale more effectively than Allied propaganda broadcasts. Coffee served as an effective class leveler among the prisoner population. Pre-war German society maintained clear beverage distinctions. Officers expected fine porcelain service, while enlisted men used metal cups. Camp Breckenridge's social officer noted, "Coffee breaks have become our most successful democratization tool. Former class distinctions diminish when all ranks receive identical service in identical vessels. Conversations between educated officers and working-class soldiers occur naturally during these breaks, gradually eroding hierarchies that formal re-education programs failed to address." This social leveling through shared consumption represented microcosmic democratic experience within prison confines. Medical documentation noted improved morale from simple pleasures like coffee, creating measurable health benefits. Camp medical officers recorded approximately 23% fewer psychosomatic complaints among prisoners with regular coffee access compared to initial processing periods when coffee habits were disrupted. Sleep quality improved despite caffeine consumption, attributed to psychological comfort rather than physiological effects. These health benefits, documented through standardized evaluation metrics, demonstrated the profound impact of familiar comforts on prisoner well-being beyond nutritional value. Coffee's gateway role in understanding American abundance became increasingly apparent as prisoners connected this single example to broader patterns. Prisoners who initially questioned coffee supplies gradually recognized similar abundance across multiple resources: sugar, dairy, gasoline, paper, contradicting years of propaganda about Allied shortages. Camp intelligence officers documented conversations where prisoners extrapolated from coffee availability to question other Nazi economic claims.